help you, and you know, once you figure that out. So, but that's really why it kind of goes back to the aptitude when you're looking for that kind of talent to make sure that they are going to be those types of producers that want to keep learning, and that's very important.
But one thing I love too, as a manager, you have to be sensitive, very sensitive to interests, because we have an array of things we support. If you can catch that somebody's really interested in something over here, and you sense that ahead of time, they're going to be much more successful, because that's going to be the things they'll focus their own time on. They'll get deep into those products. Whereas if they're doing something that's not interested, even very dedicated individuals, there's only so much they can force themselves to do that they're just not interested.
The other interesting trend that I've seen is the people that are your largest contributors, that are putting in the most amount of time, that are already busy on working on 10 different projects, always seem to be the people that are up with the technology, and they always seem to know what's going on. And the people that really only have 1 or 2 projects they're working on, you would think they have all the time in the world to kind of keep up with what's latest and current, but they're the people that constantly seem to never be up to speed with what's going on. I think it just really, it's either you have that level of interest or you don't.
Sorry, I'm surrounded by people that have real companies. We're like a little startup, right? And so my development team is 4 people. And to encourage these people to go to have time to coordinate, well, you have 20% of time we need you to keep up on, basically. That's crazy. We don't have that. But what we do is we have a culture, and we're building a culture of one where personal improvement is very much at the top of the list. And we encourage people to come up with new ideas and new solutions. And we're looking at, one of the good things that we do whatever we want. No one knows. No one in here knew me before I came here, so no one knows that I'm driving my car off of a cliff. So our head developer came in today and is all very happy because he just got the developer's kit for the Oculus visualization of programming. I can't explain it, but it's a way to do virtual reality stuff. And it's the developer kit's like $350. Pulled out his own check and wrote the check. I was like, I would have almost paid for that, glad you paid for it. I didn't say that to him. And he's like, can you imagine if we could take our data and show it in a virtual reality way, right? I was like, oh, it's cool. When are we going to have the first thing? He said, well, I get it next week. So, we'll see. But to find people that have that intellectual curiosity of what's new, that's the key. And you ask them, well, how can you ensure a great career? All you have to do is have an incredible, insatiable intellectual curiosity, continually try to make yourself better, and your point is probably one of the best, is learn how to talk to people. If you're a technologist and if you can bridge technology and tech speak to, dude on the street, business person that's going to suck your soul, you totally got it nailed, right? And that you're laughing only because you know that people like that. Exactly.
Aaron, do you have?
I don't have much to add. I'll say this, it's not really any different inside Humana. The best people are sort of self-motivated, inquisitive, learning stuff on their own. We have a whole array of all sorts of online training, but a lot of people don't take advantage of it.
No.
Probably the bulk don't. And then the best people, they would do it even if we didn't offer those things.
They would.
Yeah.
Very true.
I have several other questions, but let me open it up and see who here has questions for our right now. Anybody?
How important are prereqs or certifications in each of you? So what kind of screen do you go through before you pick? I already know what yours is.
You'd be shocked. I'll start. We try before we buy, right? Everyone that works for me or works in my company, we've worked together before. We know it. They're like brothers. And I'd say that be like sisters, but
No.
guys.
No girls.
There's no, yeah. No, they don't trust us. Anyway, but we know them, right? And we go through a vetting process because we work together and see what it's like. Certifications, you know, if anyone that works for me has a certification in anything, I would be shocked. They may.
You work with Lou?
I'm sorry?
You work with Lou?
Collinson?
He's a certified snake.
No, I don't. I'm friends with Lou, but I don't work with him.
No, I hear you. That's great, great answer.
I would say the same. I mean, I think it's nice to see they've got some certifications in different areas. The mayor is very big on personality type indicators. I mean, to try and get the right fit for the job. I mean, it sounds crazy, and I was not really a believer of it. The more that I've experienced it, and I've also done the same thing where we've brought fellows into our office. We're a very small office. Performance improvement is very entrepreneurial. There's 4 of us, including myself. And the folks who really worked out well have come in, done work with the team as fellows or apprentices, and then we sort of test before we buy. If you want to find something with the right passion, the worst thing is to get somebody who's not right for the job, and then you're trying to fit them in, and it's not good for them, and it's not good for your office. And so we've done some of those things. As corny as they may sound, I do think they actually work very well.
I think it really depends on the situation. I don't know if there's a blanket, we don't really care about certifications, or you have to be certified before we'll hire you, because there's a number of technologies that I think you don't necessarily have to be certified in. If you've got good experience working with some of the more mature technologies, I think it's very helpful to just have somebody that's got some kind of track record. But if you're looking at very cutting edge and evolving technologies, and if you're in a situation where you're working with clients or partners that are looking to only engage companies that have certified professionals, we find ourselves in situations where we have to put our people through that kind of certification training. You know, for example, we work with one of the largest virtualization companies, on the West Coast, and they don't really want people working on their projects if they're not certified on their products, which is sort of understandable. So, if you want to work on those processes, we ask that, but we do give them the time during the workday and materials, and kind of give them whatever opportunities they need to get trained, and then take the certification. But if you're doing, mobile development, or if you're doing, just web development, it's not as important, because you're going to try and fail, and you can fix it and make yourself up to
Yes, but if you're working on the latest Cisco router,
Yeah.
you need to have somebody that knows what
and
they're
knows what they're doing, exactly.
I think your point's well taken too. Your customer facing changes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because if they don't want to work with you on the basis of you not being certified, then you
Yeah,
get to pull out all the stops and get everybody certified.
It also probably depends too on how fast that person has to hit the ground, and that whether or not that's visible to the customer.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
understand.
And sometimes we also feel, we find that the individuals themselves build a certain level of self-confidence when they are certified, because they really then can stand in front of the client or the end user and say, yeah, I know what I'm talking about, as opposed to somebody who sort of dabbled at, with it at a very superficial level. So.
How much does the certification question, though, sort of bias you towards technologies that are established enough to have certifications? No one, I don't think, is yet certified on the Oculus goggles, right?
Yeah, those are the ones I was talking about.
Right. No, I mean, if there are anybody certified, I think they'd be fascinating because they don't exist yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, what's the right trade-off there? I mean, social media certifications. How do you? I don't know.
It's more
That's
prevalent.
probably a bad example.
It's more
but-
prevalent in the infrastructure world, like John's world.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we have more certified folks in that technology services part of our company. In the rest of IT, it seems to be important to individuals. They seem to like it.
Right,
It's like,
right.
and if you got a great resume, we don't care. If you don't have a great resume, it's probably a good way to get noticed. So, but
And like you said, and you as well, in terms of customer facing, it becomes somewhat of a requirement. Vendors also have those requirements that you mentioned. I think what you were asking though are kind of most of the certifications in the infrastructure world are vendor specific.
Mhm.
And it does kind of lead you down a single path, but not to go too deep in the actual certifications. There are VMware virtualization certifications, and Microsoft is coming along with a big virtualization push of their own with their Hyper-V product. And the first people to be able to do that pivot and do it quickly were the ones that already had the VMware certification. So, although they're vendor specific, the technology is very similar across those lines, so it's still very helpful.
Other questions? question is, as you're thinking about sort of the people that you're hiring, what is the trade-off between finding someone in Louisville versus finding someone remotely who can work with a team here? And this goes back to sort of Aaron's point. How do we think about, ideally, all 150, for Louisville, all 250 of those would be based in Louisville. That's not necessarily the best for human. So what's the right trade-off between, telecommuting is hard for everyone. It's not perfect. Sort of what's the, what is your use of sort of in-person versus virtualized, especially as you start getting into offshore. Some of that's probably cost differentials, but, what other factors are there in sort of where you're putting people live?
I think it really depends on the function to a large extent. There are certain functions that would work just fine, whether you have somebody in your offices with you or in some other areas, but if it's part of the core delivery process of what you're working with, personally for us, it's never been successful working with somebody remotely. So they're involved hands-on in projects and they really need to be interacting with teams on a daily basis. It's been very difficult, but now can you work with a sales force that's kind of located, geographically different locations? Sure, that works fine. Even when working with our offshore locations, we've really built up our office infrastructure to be able to support everybody in one location or two locations to be able to offer all of the amenities they need and enable them to work with their teams face to face. We do, technology company, right? We do a lot of web conferences, we do a lot of video conferences. We actually have sent video conferencing equipment to some of our clients and said, just, this way we can just press a button and talk to your developer wherever. But from a delivery standpoint, as somebody who's managing the delivery, it's much easier for us to keep everybody in one place so we can find that.
So would you rather make a push to try to relocate the right person here versus
unless it were, a role like sales or biz dev or, market development that really needs to be elsewhere or could be elsewhere. But from a delivery standpoint or IT standpoint, we prefer to have it here.
We're trying to go the other way a little bit just because of the numbers, and so we're trying to get better at, if you're not on Main Street in Louisville, it's okay, and we can still work with you. That's, as we've grown into other markets naturally, as we've done some acquisitions, we had to get better at it anyway, collaborating across cities and time zones and whatever. But collaboration tools is an area that needs work. And if I was Steve, I might use Asana or Basecamp or any number of.
Dude, that's half the software I have.
There you go. But it's not. We don't consider it secure enough for us to use.
Of course,
right?
Yeah.
So
I'm only playing with 17-year-olds daily. You've got people's health information.
that's right.
It's
So,
a lot.
well, yeah. So even if that PHI wasn't in the collaboration data, our security guys just would shoot us if we did that. So we're left with things like
Link.
I hate it so much I can't even think of the name.
It's okay.
SharePoint.
Dude. Here, let me.
So
yuck.
we really need, you guys are innovators and we need some better collaboration tools.
Sorry.
So people could really work together.
The new version is much better.
Link and SharePoint.
So you know what? There's a book being released that was released today from the guy from 37 Signals, the guy who did Ruby, and the title of the book is Remote, and he's basically taking up the debate of do remote employees work, and he's of course taking the stance of why yes, you should go out into the world and find the best employee no matter where they are in the world because collaboration tools are good enough. I see your point. I have one remote engineer, and the collaboration tools are just barely good enough. But having the 5 people, or maybe in your case 400 people that are working intimately on one job, all in a room, that's really important sometimes. A lot of the times, actually.
Yeah, but every company's different, right? But it's getting where it's just not that feasible to have everybody in one.
No, it isn't.
So we just have to get better at this.
It's a skill set you have to develop.
Yeah.
agree.
It goes back to communication, actually. You know, being able to sort of work with others. I mean, most of you have partnerships across organizational bounds, even, you know, where you have even more sort of, you know, formal methods of communication, you know, important sort of partner, customer, vendor relationships. So,
You think nobody would disagree with if I were to say that the IT people are kind of at the bottom of the road when it comes to actually reporting what they do. They're very good at what they do, but they will not tell you what exactly they did. It's like pulling teeth just to get, you know, any kind of reporting out of them. So it really does go back to that. And I think that's where really having everybody in one place helps, because you're forced to ask them questions, they're forced to give you an answer.
so you've been waiting for a while.
Yeah, to the extent you are trying to recruit talent to relocate to Louisville, it's a two-part question. What obstacles are you facing, and how can the city help you overcome those?
Trailing spouses. You know, my wife, the reason I'm in Louisville is because my wife was given the job there. And, you know, I got on a plane on Mondays and came home Thursday nights for about a year. And that is a hard part, right? That, you know, because there's so many people that come to me. Louisville is, I love it here. It's a great place to have a family. It's so cultural and convenient. But it's also hard if your spouse had a six-figure income. It's tough to relocate and find two jobs that pay that.
I was a trailing spouse, so I will underscore that.
Teresa's phrase was kicking and screaming.
Yeah, I am kicking and screaming. I'm from Connecticut originally. The case at which I speak wasn't enough to give that away. But I was in that position, and I did the Monday through Thursday back to DC, back to the company that I came from. And it was very hard to try and find something local that was the right fit. Luckily I have, but I think, especially in city government, and I think maybe in Louisville, and you touched on this, it's the salary differential. How do we pay enough for the folks who you know, are those really passionate people who, you know, are going to gravitate towards Silicon Valley, New York City, Chicago, Miami, wherever those other places are, and not really want to be drawn to Louisville.
I guess a follow-up is, if you're already paying for folks in Silicon Valley, like you had mentioned, we're going to Dallas, we're going to San Francisco, if you're already paying those salaries, wouldn't it be even more of a draw to say, we can pay you that to live in Louisville? It's a lot farther.
And then there's HR departments that say, okay, we're cheaper in Louisville. So, yeah, I would just add, aside from the spouse issue, there's just sort of you know, a PR problem for Louisville to an extent, right? We have a lot of transplants. Virtually all of them love it here. I mean, you guys know what it's like. But frequently we get people that are like, Louisville, really? And, you know, we have a lot of other things at Humana. Not everyone wants to work in Fortune 100, but some people do. We got a lot of stuff they're looking for, and then they're like, Louisville, really? That's Kentucky? I don't know what that is. So I think we can do more to create. I was talking to Ernie about this before the session. We need to do more to. We don't know enough at Humana, for example, about things like talk and other things that are going on in the community to have a better story about what makes it an attractive place to come with your family. They probably feel like they're betting their whole future on one company, and they don't need to feel that way.
If we only knew somebody in city government.
Yes, that would be great.
We're from the rest of the community. We're here to help. There was another.
Yeah, so kind of playing along those lines is, once you got them, how do you keep them? Like, how do you keep them from going out of jobs in Austin or to Silicon Valley or to New York? You know, I'm not sure. I mean, yes, you know.
Just get them to have kids.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's key. So, I run a company as well, and I have to have an operation in Silicon Valley. It just came out, I was there all week, I get over that in 2 weeks, because it's constant flow of people, and that's where we are. A lot of the talent is there, but I have to have a full operation there, scoping them out, scanning them out, wherever, you know, and then I can import them. How do you keep them? That's the thing.
We just got to tell a story about the quality of life here. I mean, I know, I'm sure you do too, people that live there that, you know, the standard of living at a certain level of income is just not even close to Louisville. And there's something, we all live it, right? How great it is to live here. So we got a great story versus all those cities. We just have to get better at telling.
I would say too, that, I mean, Louisville, is on the upswing nationally, right? We are in the news everywhere. The mayor, I'm not just saying he's my boss, but I mean, he's doing a great job at really raising the profile of the city, along with a lot of the work of other folks in city government and within the community. I know that I've been in multiple, conferences of late where Louisville's been allotted for all of the things that we're doing in our entrepreneurial community in the tech space, in terms of even just trying to support each other and push things out and attract more folks to Louisville and really capitalize on the quality of the place. I mean, brand it in a different way. There is a lot of exciting things, I think, for people who might be coming out of schools that want to go to a next tier city that's on the rise. Louisville is going to really define and it's going to help shape, I think, a lot of what it is to be a city across the nation. So I think if you could sell that to some of your folks and really start to sell them on those things, it will help.
One of the bigger challenges is not so much when you say, come to Louisville, when you say come to Louisville, Kentucky. That's really when it really starts to become a bit of a problem. I was in the East Coast the last 3 days, so everybody that I met, I said, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Louisville. I kind of left out the Kentucky part. Because, it is, I think Louisville is definitely on the upswing, but I do think, everybody knows this, sort of the impression of what this place is as a tech hub and a tech center. I mean, it really, it's not really anything to write home about, so I think we do have a lot of work to do. If we can at least raise the profile of Louisville, we can always say, oh yeah, it's the oasis. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff. Do that every year.
It's actually an important branding point. I mean, many of our peer cities don't mention the state at all.
Yeah.
Why do we just say Louisville, Kentucky? Just say Louisville.
Just say Louisville.
That's what Charlotte does. That's what Louisville. I mean, if you start thinking about it, just don't mention it. I think that's a great idea. But there is a question in the back. Yeah.
I was going to say, by the way, about Kentucky, our governor was in Silicon Valley bragging about the success of Kentucky in the healthcare legislation. I mean, my son called me from there and said, do you know that Kentucky really made the news as a success story? So we tend to really feel bad about ourselves, but there are success stories that propagate.
Right.
I think our failure is really that our size in IT is small, so we cannot have the culture of Silicon Valley people hopping from one company to another. They don't have this option, and people who grew up with this option or know about it don't like to be locked. We don't have enough momentum of businesses and competitiveness in that sense to have this culture. I think it's a matter of time. I think if we don't give up, it will happen, but I'm optimistic. So.
Any other questions?
So not a question, but a comment. 20 years ago, you couldn't say Louisville to people in the Northeast and expect them to know where that was. You have to say Louisville.
Right.
So that's really a reality. I don't know if we owe it to ESPN or who, but
Yeah.
We can't say
Yeah, that is very true, because my husband was recruited out of grad school in Virginia to come to GE, and his first question was, where is Kentucky? Where is Louisville? And when, you kind of looked it up and said, I'm not going there. So that was 19 years ago, and they kept calling and saying, no, it's great, you should come out here. So for the first 4 years that he lived here, he rented furniture because he was always on the way of moving out, and then, of course, over the years you have kids, like you said, it's absolutely the truth. Or for the kids, we may be, thinking about some other places, but there really isn't a better place for, a family environment that really gives you the best of everything that you can talk about compared to what Google has to offer.
I don't know if any of you know the site Forge HQ. Kelby Price.
Kelby.
Is Kelby
We like
there?
Kelby.
Is that Kelby? I never met her. It's awesome. We need more of that. I've never met Kelby, but that is a really cool thing that we need to sign up for. Do more things like that.
We'll plug it in.
Yeah,
Forge
plug in
HQ.
your next. Forge is really cool. Yeah. How can the ecosystem, whether that's